Class, and welcome to your Chapter 21 micro lecture, in which we're going to solve question 2 of your homework. So, with that, let me just share my screen so I can pull up my Excel document. If I can find it. There we go. And let's get started. So, as usual, I'll be looking down at my phone because this is where the question is, so I'm not toggling between screens. So, the question says, a manufactured product has the following information for June, and it gives us our direct materials, direct labor, the number of units manufactured, and our overhead. And then it gives us our standard quantity and cost, which is the budgeted amount. And then it gives us our actual results. And so for part one, which is required one, it says prepare the standard cost card showing standard cost per unit. So we're going to use the standard quantity and cost information that is given in the question. And you see here, I've already set it up by item and cost. And our three items that go into the manufacture of this product are our direct materials, our direct labor, and our overhead. So for direct materials, the way how you calculate this is it tells you that each unit requires 6 pounds. So 6 pounds, and each unit costs $8 per pound. So to calculate the per unit cost for direct materials, we would multiply 6 times 8. So it costs $48 of direct materials per unit produced. That's the standard cost. For our direct labor, it tells us now that each unit requires 2 DLH. DLH stands for direct labor hours. And it tells us that each direct labor hour is $16 per direct labor hour. So to get the per unit standard cost for this product, we would multiply 2 times 16, and we get $32. And then last but not least, we want to do our overhead. It tells us that for overhead, we're going to attribute 2 direct labor hours, but the cost is $12 per direct labor hour. So then we multiply those two numbers, 2 times 12. I keep doing that. I don't know why, but 2 times 12, we get 24. Then we add together these three numbers, and we get that the standard cost to produce each unit is $104. Moving to part two now. Part two says, compute total budgeted costs for June production. So again, this is just the budgeted cost that you're computing, and you need to actually do the calculation. If you look at the question tells us that there were 8,000 units produced. So we have, I'm going to do direct materials again, direct labor, and our overhead, and then my total. So it tells me that 8,000 units were produced. So I'm going to put 8,000 for all three of these. And then I just calculated. In my calculation, I calculated that the budgeted or the standard cost is $48 per unit for direct materials. So I'm just going to use $48 here. And then I multiply those two numbers. I manufactured 8,000 units. It cost $48 per unit. So my total direct materials budgeted was $384,000. For my direct labor, I calculated at $32 and I produced 8,000 units. So I multiply those two numbers and I get my budgeted direct labor hours. Okay. And then for my overhead, I calculated it at 24. So again, I also multiply those two numbers. And then I add together these three total numbers, and that gives me my costs, my computed total budgeted cost for June production. So it'll be 832,000. All right. Part three now says to compute total actual cost for June production. So it wants the actual cost this time. So I'm going to calculate that down here. I'm going to do again my direct materials, my direct labor. I can't type. My overhead and my total. Now I'm going to look at the actual column. It tells me my actual results were 48,000 pounds for the 8,000 units produced, and it was actually $8.10 per pound. So I'm going to multiply those two numbers and I get the actual cost of my 8,000 units, which is 392,850. For my direct labor hours, it told me that the actual hours were 15,700 and the actual cost was $16.50 per direct labor hour. So I'm going to multiply those two numbers and I get my actual cost for direct labor. And then for overhead, it just gives me the amount. There's no calculation necessary. It tells me it's 198,000. So then I add together these three numbers, and that should give me my computed total actual cost for the June production, which comes out to 849,900. So that's the answer for required three, 849,900. Now the last part of the question, if I can get to it, says compute total cost variance for June. So compute total cost variance for June. So if my budgeted came out to be what? My budgeted was 832,000. I'm going to put that here, 832. That was the amount that I budgeted. My actual came out to be 849,900. I am going to subtract these two numbers. And I get negative 17,900. Now, what does this mean? It means that I budgeted less than what I actually spent. So it means that I spent more than what I thought I was going to spend. So that gives me a variance of 17,900, and we're going to call that an unfavorable variance. It's unfavorable because the best case scenario is that you spend what you budgeted or you spend less than what you budgeted. When you spend more than what you budgeted, that means you're incurring more costs than you want to or than you expected to. And that is seen as an unfavorable variance. And that is how you solve question 2 of the homework. I'm going to stop sharing. As always, if you have any questions or you need help with any of the other problems, feel free to reach out. Happy to schedule a meeting to connect with you or send you a video like this to help out. Take care.